Alright, well, before I start this review on Dune, I just want to thank Pinhead198 for getting me this wonderful version of Dune from, I think it's an exclusive Barnes & Noble. Yeah, exclusive to Barnes & Noble copy of Dune. I just want to thank him for that. He's been real sweet. So yeah, bear with me too, because I got a new microphone here. I'm trying it out. I'm not sure if I like it just yet, but we'll see how this video goes. I think I'm going to put this review up on my podcast too, just to, because I know some people don't like to watch the video instead, like they'd rather just listen to it, and honestly sometimes I'm the same way, so I totally understand. I'm going to put it up on my Spotify, on my podcast, so you guys can enjoy it there. But I just wanted to talk about, my wife and I got the wonderful opportunity to see Dune in IMAX, and I gotta say it was probably one of the best movie experiences that I've had in a very long time. The cinematography, the music, the story all came together so wonderfully. I have read the book Dune before I saw this movie. It is not how I was introduced to Dune. I was introduced to Dune with the sci-fi original that came out. I believe William Hurt was in that one. That was good. I know from what I understand it was closer to the actual story. It was closer to the book rather than the David Lynch version that came out before that. Now, having seen this movie, Villeneuve's rendition of Dune, his rendition is the closest to the book that I have seen. There were moments in the movie that I remember where word for word the dialogue came straight out of the book. I thought that was perfect for fans of the book. To me, it was a real treat. Now, going in, because my wife had never even heard of Dune or knew anything about it, I was concerned that the story or the way it was all going to be conveyed wasn't going to be well enough for an audience member that has never seen or heard about Dune or even read the books Dune to understand the story. Thankfully, I was horribly wrong. Villeneuve took care of all that. He made sure that people that had never even heard of this story and were just coming in blind knew from the get-go what was going on. The concept of the story, the plot, everything was laid out perfectly. All the weird things that may have been confusing to understand, at least confusing for me to understand when I was reading the book, Villeneuve, he explained it perfectly. Obviously, Hans Zimmer knocked it out of the park in this one. I will say that in the theater in IMAX when I saw it, I was sitting like dead center of the theater, so all the music was really compiled to that one spot. All the sound. There was a couple times that made me jump. I mean, his score made me jump a couple times. Not only that, but then the use of the voice was really intense, and it quickly snapped me back into the story. I'll be kind of honest. When going into the movie, I was concerned about how the pacing was going to be, because it is a very slow sci-fi drama, as opposed to what some people are thinking it is where it's all action and stuff like that. But it's a slow sci-fi drama, and I was concerned about the pacing and how they were going to handle that. They did a fantastic job. I felt like that 2.5 hours flew by. Every point of the movie, you were getting some world-building aspects, and you were learning about the characters, and they were building their stories. So it didn't feel like no part of the movie at the time, or no part of the movie felt like a waste of time. It felt like it was all moving as it should, and I'm thankful for that. All the acting was on point. I was a little concerned about Jason Momoa playing Idaho because he's too bro-y, or his bro dude acting. You know, he just plays himself for the most part. And I'm impressed. I felt like Jason Momoa in this one, while still doing that, stepped his game up from what I've seen before, and I applaud him for that. He did portray Idaho to how I saw him in the book. Zendaya's barely in this movie. She's, I don't want to spoil anything, but she's barely part of this movie. Was it Timothée Chalamet? Chalamet did such a fantastic job playing Paul. He did a really good job. Oscar Isaac, I remember my wife was rooting for him the whole time. Oscar Isaac did a fantastic job. Josh Brolin did a fantastic job. The outstanding actor for me was Rebecca Ferguson. She did an amazing job playing Paul's mother and the Bene Gesserit. She did so good. I felt like every time she was on screen, I was captivated with how well she was acting and how well her performance was. Of course, we have Skarsgård, did an amazing job as the Baron. I was, my wife thought he looked kind of comical at times, but for me, he always seemed menacing and his tone was always on point. It's always how I viewed it when I was reading the book. The costume, that was the other thing. The costumes and the set designs were like magnificent. Like some of the designs, I remember like when the movie first started and you started to see some of the costumes, I was like blown away. I was like, man, that's some really crazy stuff. It just fits so well. Another thing I wanted to mention was the Atreides house. Their theme music was like a bagpipe. And that kind of like caught me off guard at first, but I really enjoyed it. And then when it came on again later, I was like, man, that's a really unique way to portray them. When I finished the movie at the theater later that night, I couldn't really go to sleep, so I stayed up and I watched it again on HBO Max. It was still a good story, and it was still what I wanted from Dune. I didn't get the same feeling that I got watching it in the theater. Now, with that said, I 100% believe that if you guys have the opportunity or feel comfortable enough to go to the theater to watch this movie, I highly recommend you do so. It's far better than watching it at home. A lot of this movie has to do with the sound, the visuals, and the story is fantastic, but without those other two, it doesn't have the same impact, for me anyway. Obviously, this is part one. This is only half of the book, and I'm thankful that we got announced, what was it, yesterday, that we are going to get a part two. So, but it's not going to be until 2023, unfortunately. Like, I really wanted it right now, and so did my wife. I remember after the movie, I was really concerned if she was even going to like it or not. Because with the story of Dune as it is, you're either going to love it or you hate it. I don't feel like there's going to be any in between. And I remember after the movie ended and it like ended halfway in the story, she like looked over at me and she's like, all right, when's the next one? And I was like, wow, I was really thankful that she liked it. But it's sad that we have to wait until 2023. I understand that they were trying to probably wait until they saw the results of this one to then decide if they wanted to do a part two, which in my mind is kind of silly. It's like either do it all or none of it, but regardless, I'm thankful that we're getting a part two to this wonderful part one. It has been a very long time since I have seen a movie that has been this good in the theater. I'm not super picky when it comes to movies. I can be at times, but it's been a long time since I've seen a movie like Dune. And I say that saying like hitting all the points of cinematography, music, sound, the story, everything. It goes so well together that I come out of the theater like just thinking, wow, that was beautiful. That was a beautiful movie. It's been a long time since I felt that way, and I'm thankful that in this crappy time in the world that we live in today, that we get this wonderful piece to be able to watch, and thankfully we are able to go to the theaters and see this as it should be, in my opinion. And I hope that all of you guys get the chance to go see this wonderful cinematic masterpiece in the theater. So I think that'll do it for my review today.